we want to talk a little bit about setting this up. So what I thought I would do is kind of I have a picture of Bliss that I just took so you could kind of see distance from the camera that we're looking for. And then I'm just going to show you a couple of lighting techniques and how simple this is. And then we want to open the floor to questions. So if you will raise your hand, we'll try to calling you. Maybe, Barbara, if you don't mind, maybe you could turn them on and off so that we can hear their questions and try to answer questions. But it's our opportunity to say, this is the equipment you need and to answer your questions about how to use the equipment. So, first of all, you know,
If they'll hit their little raise hand icon, I can see that they have a question. Does that
that's the
make
way to
sense?
do it. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand, and then Barbara can call on you, and we can, our panel, our lovely panel here, thank you, my friends, we can try to answer those questions. So we're going to make this really simple. It is not a canned presentation. We are doing this live. I literally just finished shooting headshots in the last hour, and we came straight to this. So this is what we're doing. So as you all know, COVID has changed the way that we have to present our information to casting directors, producers, agents, everybody involved in the business. It is not going to change back. We are going to be doing taped auditions from here on out. So this is something, because it is not going to change back, now is the time to elevate our game and step up and learn how to do this. We have an advantage in Atlanta that LA and New York have not had, and that we have been taping our auditions for a while. LA and New York have had live in-person auditions while we've been taping auditions. And so they're behind the eight ball. They are having to learn more about this than we are so far ahead of them right now. And hopefully we have some LA people watching us tonight too. I know I had a client from LA earlier today that said they were going to tune in. So I'm not knocking LA. I'm just saying that because we have had to tape, we are ahead of the game. But we want to stay ahead of the game. We want to look professional and put the best foot forward. Someone told me today that a major casting director had told them that if the video quality isn't what he needs, unfortunately, sometimes those auditions get cast aside and discounted. So it is really, really important that we do what we need to do in order to be in the forefront of the market. All of us watching, we want that to happen. We want you to do this correctly. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is throw away your ring lights, and we're going to show you what to use. And so let's start with the very basics of what I use. I am a big believer in my Sony mirrorless camera. Now, not to just plug Sony. Nikon makes their Z cameras now, which are very good cameras. And Canon, a little late to the game, but has just recently introduced their R series cameras. All of the mirrorless cameras are very, very good product. I, of course, shoot with Zeiss lenses because, not only am I a Zeiss ambassador, I'm a big believer in the product. Gina's going to try to sell you on Sony stuff, so just ignore both of us. I typically will do, right now I've got this set on an 85, which is a really good distance from the camera. I really like doing this with my 40. And the reason I like doing this with my 40 is because I can do the pullback with the same lens that I'm doing the close-up with, and you can just crop in camera for the two different perspectives. And the Sony's let you, it has that cropping camera feature so that it's just really, really simple for me. I am typically shooting an audition, just to kind of give you an idea of my settings. If I'm doing an audition, I don't, I'm a headshot photographer, but I do taped auditions. I typically would do it around 5.6, so I'm keeping the actor in focus and I'm blurring my background a little bit. I'm also using my camera set up to track the actors so that if they move around, I'm not losing my focus. And then I am miking. I think this is really important and this is where Ryan comes in. I am miking with the Rode Mic Go system, and I have it right here. I only have one mic, so I didn't, if I was mic'd, then I would be passing it back and forth with Bliss, and I just thought it would be easier not to do that tonight. But the great thing about this mic system, and I think this is really important for everybody out there, is that This will capture the sound from the point of the actor instead of from the point of the camera. So your reader is not going to be as loud as you are. So this is really, really important. You can mic from the camera. I would recommend not using the camera's internal mic, but using an external mic if you're going to do that. I have in the past with my Rode shotgun mic, I have run a cable from the camera to the mic so that I could move the mic closer to the actor, and Ryan can get into that in a little bit. But this one is the receiver. It goes on the camera or into the computer, and this one goes on the actor. And you can literally just clip this onto your shirt. Of course, I'm doing this backwards and with heels, so I can't see what I'm clipping. But it clips onto your shirt. If you don't want to be that obvious, Rode makes this nifty little lav mic that plugs straight into the transmitter. So that way you can put this on your pants just like you would if you were, and this on your, clip this to your shirt just like you would if you were on set. And you know, easy peasy, really simple. And then the point of conversation is from you. In many circumstances, and Ryan is going to cover this a little bit more in detail because he's the detail person on all of this, you can plug this directly into your computer, which if you're doing a Zoom meeting and you try it out and it works on your computer, then you've got the good sound on you for your, if you're doing a table read or a callback, you're plugged and ready to go. If not, Ryan is, if your computer doesn't work with that, Ryan is going to give us some more alternatives. And then for me, my part of this, before I let my friends talk, the piece de resistance is nanlite. So this is where this idea started with when Barbara and I started talking about this, is because actors don't know how to light themselves. And this is a big problem. So your lighting tends to be very, very flat. So what we see a lot of people doing is one of two things. They're going out and they're not going anywhere, but they're buying from Amazon or eBay a ring light, and they're flat lighting themselves, blowing their faces out, and very, very badly. Or they're buying a 3-light kit from eBay or Amazon, which are really, really cheap lights with big soft boxes on it, and nobody knows how to use them, and you're flat lighting yourself again. So what I want you to do, these are brilliant and they're so inexpensive, and right now I'm lighting myself with a $50 light from Nanlite. But the one that I want you to use, I actually have a slightly bigger one. Barry, you may have to tell me what the model is. I'm using a 68B, but you have one that's a size down, right? What's the model?
Yeah, we have a 68B, which is what you have, and then the size down from that is the 40. So a daylight and bicolor, but I'll explain what all that stuff is when we get talking again.
So, and the difference between daylight and bicolor, if you set your camera to 5600, that will be correct for daylight, and you can set the bicolor to the same thing. So just remember to set your cameras at 5600 for the light, and you're going to be fine. And Melissa and I are going to get up, and we're going to actually demonstrate that. So can everybody see? Cool. You're going to see my butt, which is not going to be flattering. So Bliss, I'm going to have you stand kind of right on that mark. I want you to see how close we are. I am, and I took a test shot with my camera just a little while ago. I am not 5 feet from Bliss. And so where Bliss is about 5 feet away with an 85, I get head and shoulders. And that for most of your audition is all you need is head and shoulders. I am using as a background, I have this great V-flat from V-Flat World. It's $200. But when you pull, it is white. I'm using a white background, but when you pull the actor off the white, it is light gray. So if you don't like the background, white goes to gray. So just remember that. You can use a white wall, you can use a white curtain, you can use a blue wall, you can use a blue curtain, you can use a gray wall, you can use a gray curtain. It doesn't matter. Use whatever your taste is. I happen to have these great V-flats, and so that's what I'm using. But really wanted to show you is the light. So that is with no light, and that is with one light. And that is only this, I don't know if you can see it. There. It's just, this is one panel to light Bliss, and that is all I need. I am lighting it. The light itself is only about 4 feet away. You can get as close as you can and stay out of the frame of the camera, and the closer you get, the softer the light will be. I'm a little bit pulled out just so that it wasn't on camera. You can feather the light just by turning it slightly to change the amount of light on the face, and that will give you a more cinematic look. And if you really wanted to flatten it out, which I don't recommend, just move the light slightly, and that flattens out the light. You want this point of the light to be hitting about the middle of the face, so just raise and lower it. And the simple rule of thumb is, right there is perfect, when you see the color of their eyes the way that they are supposed to be, your light is at the right height. So just raise and lower your light until you get the light in the eyes and you can see the color and you're at the right light. And then you can adjust the dimness and the brightness as you need to for your camera. And I prefer to about mid-strength because I don't want her to be blind and she's squinting into my camera. So I prefer to cut it about halfway down and then boost my ISO a little bit just so that I'm not blinding her, because this thing is quite strong. The smaller one might not be. But that's it. I'm doing this with one light, and I don't need 3 lights, and I don't need a ring light, and I can get this as cinematic as I want it to be just by turning it a little bit. I can fill it, and I wanted everybody to see this. If you need to fill the light, this is a standing reflector. They have a standing, I'm going to give you a list from B&H that has a lot of the equipment on there. I've got a link. B&H is a camera store in New York, and they have very kindly set up a wish list for me with all of the items we're going to talk about tonight, except for some new ones that I think Ryan is throwing at us. And we'll make sure everybody gets that link, and you can go to B&H and purchase what you need. The prices at B&H are going to be very competitive with Amazon, and I would love to say my plug for the camera stores. Help us support our camera stores because they support us. And in this case, I just did a program for B&H, so that's why I did B&H. But I know Jean works a lot with Adorama. We've got Unique in Indianapolis. I'm sorry, Unique is, Roberts is Indianapolis.
Roberts in Indianapolis.
And where is Unique? New Jersey.
Fairfield, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got
Tracy?
support our local camera stores. Yes, ma'am.
Kathy Johns has a question for you.
Shoot.
Kathy, unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. Tracy, I was wondering with that one light system, what about the shadow in the back? How do you get rid of that?
Just pull her off the background a little bit more.
Cool the light down, did you say? I'm sorry.
No, pull the actor off the background. Pull them forward.
Oh, okay.
And the shadow would disappear.
Okie dokie.
I'm trying to
Thank
keep
you.
everything in view of the computer camera, so I am pretty close to my computer. But if you just give yourself a little bit of room to pull the actor off, the shadow will disappear. And you can adjust it too and feather. But really, the whole idea there is just pull the actor further from the background, and that takes care of it.
Thank you.
Barry, am I right on that one?
You were correct. Yes, ma'am. That's what I would do.
Barry is our expert. I have
I don't know about expert, but yeah, I've been lighting a long time.
Yes, he's been lighting a long time, and he's the product person for Nan Lights.
Yeah, like, yep.
Come on forward, Liz. I was just gonna, with this, I was going that you can use this if you need to fill in more. Just use a standing reflector. You don't need another light. And a handy hint from Heloise that Barry will hate is if you do this during daylight hours, just use a window in the same place.
You can.
And fill in with a reflector. I mean, you don't even have to have a light, but a lot of us are having to tape after the sun goes down, and you really should have a light. So that is it. That is how simple this is. And I think we've all made a mountain out of a molehill trying to make this harder than it is. I know, Barbara, you said Zoe at one point had like 10 different lighting kits because she keeps buying, trying to find the magic bullet for lighting. And it is as simple as this one panel from Nan Light that is just, I mean, it's so stupid simple. They've made this LED panel, this big flat panel, it mimics a softbox, and you only need one, and you can pretty much do exactly what you need to do with it. So listen, I can sit down. Let's talk about cameras. I will turn that off. Can you still see us if we sit down? Yes, we're still lit. I still have I have a $50 nan light lighting both of us right now. I just love this thing. It takes a little Sony battery.
Does give a lot of light.
It really does for $50. Hopefully the battery won't give out while we're talking because I don't think I've recharged it. So Barry, I might be in trouble there. So I made some camera recommendations, and Jean can take us through a little bit of these. I'm using an A7R4. This is total overkill. You don't need this camera for doing this. I would love at some point to see everybody start to move. And the reason that I even started thinking about this is people write me all the time and say, what cameras do you recommend? Because they know I'm a photographer. So here's my recommendations. I love the Sony 6100, Alpha 6100. I love the Alpha 6400 and the Sony 7C, which is a full frame camera. The other two, the 6100 and 6400, are crop cameras. The 7C is a full frame camera. The great thing about these cameras is they have fully oscillating screens. Am I correct on that, Jean?
Correct.
Right. So you can turn the. Does the 7C not have one? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so scrap the 7C on that one.
A7S3, A7S3.
You can turn the screens around so that you can see yourself taping. So that if you're doing this by yourself, you can see yourself taping. So the 6100, 6400 both have that feature. So I think that's an amazing little thing. And both of those, I'm going to close my door. I can hear people in the hallway.
The A7C is actually a really good option in the fact just its size and compactness, but also the fact that you're dealing with a bigger sensor. So when you talk about that, you're talking about what Tracy and everyone else is looking for right now is depth of field. Everyone wants everything to look totally sexy right now. And, from a casting standpoint, even with a lot of these cameras being able to really make things look cinematic. And with 4K recording, you have so many different options, not just from like a crop to full frame option, but you can take different movements just depending on what type of gig you're looking at picking up and what type of agency you're even working with, so they can even help you out the reel and really take different angles from just one single shot. And I think that's very important because I think most of us, I think Barry and Brian, most of the time I'm talking to photographers, I'm like, on the other side, the talent thing hasn't been in my wheelhouse. I think my biggest credit was, I think I was man number 4 in an independent movie like 15 years ago or something. But which I didn't have to audition for. But being up here in the New York market, you're certainly always looking at DPs, actors, everyone is always coming to you for advice on what to get. And you kind of want to keep it as simple as you can. Because you're looking for a job. It's just like it's a matter of how far down the rabbit hole you always kind of want to go. But now that these cameras, we can spout Sony all night long. I think Sony has been the forefront of mirrorless. Luckily I shot Sony before I went and worked with Sony. But they're in their 6th generation of a mirrorless system now, where a lot of the kinks have been worked out. And honestly, we've listened to a lot of people like actors and working crews that are behind and in front to kind of help facilitate what's going to meet their needs rather quickly. And streamline the workflow because you can get is. And I say this to Tracy. I think early on, Tracy and I troubleshot a lot of her issues, and that's how we got to have the level of camaraderie we have. And these cameras can be as simple as you want; they can be as complicated as you want. So if you want to be busting heads and going so far deep down the rabbit hole to tweak dynamic range and just every little minute part of the pixel and color.
Yeah, we don't want to do that tonight.
Color theory, you don't. But now you can just flip it on. You can get your exposure in a relatively quick amount of time. Our sensors, we have a lot of flexibility with. There's a little bit of a safety net so that you can learn from what you practice. And I mean, I think exactly what she was talking about. I mean, just a V flat single light camera lens, and especially a 40. I mean, I agree entirely with that. So you can do a half to a headshot, really quick. I mean, without
Right.
having to navigate too far deep and spend too much money on stuff. But I mean, the stuff that you put together from a price point certainly covers most of the territory, and even then some for what some of these guys might want. I mean, even the ZV-1, which is a smaller 1-inch camera. I mean, that even has an effect, a bokeh effect on it that you can really leave that wide open and get, the really fast autofocusing, flip screen, and see what's going on. So, I mean, you're living in a great time right now. I mean, so sorry.
I want to take you from, a lot of us are, and I say us, I'm not an actor, so I really don't, I should include myself there. But a lot of actors are using their iPhones. We want you to look as sexy as Ryan does. Ryan, what are you shooting with?
I'm a trader today. I got a hand-me-down from the road office out in Australia, and I got a Lumix GH4 right now.
But you're still shooting with a real camera, and
I am.
So which brings up another point. When you're doing this, there's a couple of ways to do this. You can live stream from your camera. So if you were doing a Zoom callback or a table read, you can look as good as Ryan, and it's not that hard to set up.
Tracy, I'm an audio guy. If I can do this, y'all can.
Well, you're so much more engineering, audio, everything adept than I am. All right, so this is a capture card, and this is by Camlink, which is Elgato, and this particular one runs $130 and just plugs into an HDMI cord, which plugs into my camera. Is this a micro or a mini that they need, Gene? I look at the back. Micro. Okay, so you're looking for HDMI to micro HDMI.
Yeah, Type A to Type C.
So this is why Gene and Ryan and Barry are here, to keep me from saying things that are wrong. This is just plug and play. It's so simple. Plug it into your computer, and then you look on your Zoom, and you will be able to see your camera as a video option. And it couldn't be simpler. If you're using a capture card, you can do your audio through this as well. So when Ryan talks about audio, if we are putting this little baby, oh, that's the wrong one. That's the receiver on top of our camera, then you can capture it through this. If you can't find one of these, they are readily available now. And I think even the 1080 ones, which are like $20, I think that those work too. This is a 4K one, so this was a little bit more expensive. But
And what is that?
It's a Camlink by Elgato.
Capture card. It's a portable external capture card.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's
y'all
just
say that like we know what that is.
Oh, sorry.
this is what you need to live stream your camera to your computer for Zoom, is a Camlink. Now, if you are using Sony, you have another option. So if you are using Sony, if you have a C-to-C cable, you can plug this straight into your computer. If you have a C or Thunderbolt port, or like Thunderbolt, you can plug this straight into your computer. And Sony makes a little bit of software called Imaging Edge, and you can stream through Imaging Edge. But if you are doing that, and Ryan, I'll let you talk about this a little bit more, then you can't stream your audio. So your audio then has to be plugged directly into your computer instead of your camera. So that's a little bit of a workaround. And if anybody has questions about that afterwards, we're happy to circle back to that. So these are your options. Of course, if you were using your camera for a self-tape audition, that's a simple enough solution. But if you're using your camera to Zoom for your callback or your table read, so you look sexy like Ryan does, these are options. The Camlink, again, runs straight into your computer and is plug and play. It should show up as soon as you plug it in. This is a little bit more difficult, but is also a solution using the Sony Imaging Edge software.
There's
Ryan,
also the wireless feature. I mean, our cameras do have wireless remote, so you can run that. And what it'll do is it'll send a 1080 signal, but obviously the audio component won't be included in there, which is why you need a microphone plugged into the proprietary computer. But the camera will fire off, without any cables needed. So it's Every day the software just went live for OS and live for Windows for a couple months, and it's a game changer. So works pretty darn.
It has been a game changer. So the cam links were like, when this pandemic started, March, April, they were nowhere to be found. They were completely sold out. Now they are widely available. And again, you can buy the 1080p cam link for 20 bucks, I think. The 4K is about 130. So for a while, if you could find one, it was like $350, but the prices, they're readily available. Prices dropped. So we should all be good there. Ryan, when we're talking about the audio plugged into the computer, one of the things I do want to say is you should have, and I'll let you expand on this, a Bluetooth has something. This is a Bluetooth microphone headset, just so that I can still hear the questions going back and forth. Because if your microphone, if you're using an external mic and you've got it plugged in, it may not have audio out. It may only be audio in, and you have to go back, and you have to have both. So Ryan, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. First of all, I hope I don't over inundate too many people here. The start of audio is mostly fixing the problems like Tracy led with, which is getting your computer to communicate with it. This is the same thing for those cam links and so forth. I have an A10 Mini over here doing the same thing. It's an interface converting something to communicate with a computer. Rode microphones in general, we now have 3 USB microphones. The audio is coming through an audio interface called the Rodecaster Pro. Those are all interfaces that turn a voltage into ones and zeros for a computer to understand it. Same thing for cameras, same thing for audio. Back in the day, it was just waveforms that were moving, and we didn't have to worry about converting them over to ones and zeros for a computer to understand. So the first thing I talk about is that an operating system is going to have to talk to your hardware. So in this case, if it's just the wireless Go, you have to plug it in appropriately. More on that in a little bit. And then you have to tell your operating system that you're using that microphone. A lot of people forget that step. They think it's going to be automatic. And while we attempt to make everything as plug and play as humanly possible, hardware goes into operating system goes into a software. So in the case of, I'm so sorry, Gene, I just got introduced to your software from Tracy, a week ago or so. What was the software called?
Imaging Edge.
Yeah,
Imaging Edge.
Imaging Edge wireless.
There we go. And that's a software, right? And if audio gets incorporated into that from the actual stream, I'm sure it will, that's your software.
Yeah, it's basically just capture. It's capture. I mean, it was really centered around the still image.
There you go.
And
yeah.
Really went to video, but obviously, I mean, transferring a proper, streaming audio and video across each other without any type of latency is beyond our capability right now, especially with full 1080 and.
Absolutely, it's a nightmare, and you're right, because video is going to transmit at a different thing than audio and so forth. To get to the point here, if you're a Mac user and you're using GarageBand to record your audio, a lot of people are doing that. If you're simply doing a podcast, a stream, a voiceover, any kind of interviews and things like that, you might be just using Zoom. That's your software. And so those 3 steps are important to check right before you start everything that you're about to do. So the hardware has got to go into the operating system into the software. After that, a couple solutions, again, we were talking about is the Wireless Go. The Wireless Go is not an audio interface, and it is just an analog microphone. I muted it so you didn't hear that really loud Velcro from the baggie that it comes with. That microphone, Tracy was talking about the freedom of that. This is just wirelessly communicating with the receiver. The receiver is, in essence, the brain of this operation, but out of the jack that's right here on the side that would go into your Sony camera, it's just voltage. There's no ones and zeros. So we have a cable called the SC7. Got it plugged into my vlogger kit. That's another thing I'll introduce you in a little bit. Oh, there she was prepared.
I had it.
I love it. I love it. So that's a conversation we already had, right? Which was taking an analog microphone and plugging it into a computer or a phone. This is primarily for a phone. You're going to take what is called a TRRS connector because these smart devices are bidirectional. They take a microphone into and then out of the same device. And this is the only change that has really happened in audio cables since World War II. And it's because phone companies needed one jack to do both jobs. So all of these in general are going to be smart devices, tablets, laptops, phones, etc. If you're using a camera, they're just analog recorders in most cases. Like if you strip down a Sony camera, it's a lot of things, and inside of there is going to be an audio recorder. It's taking a TRS instead of a TRRS because it only needs to go one direction. It's going microphone into the camera, job done, right? So if you plug the TRS, the black end, into your camera, it's not going to be a good day. If you plug the gray into, if you plug the gray into the camera, it's going to be a bad day. If you plug the black one into your laptop's just going to think it's headphones. And so there's no microphone going into it. So be very aware of that. If anybody has any more questions on that, we can dive a little deeper. But in order to get that to work with your phone, the wireless Go, the video mic Go, or any of those microphones that require, that are adding an external microphone to your phone or computer, needs to connect to it properly with that TRRS connection. I will go ahead and apologize for computers because they don't always work. I'm not sure. Computers are the more intelligent item in all of these things we're talking about, phones, tablets, and whatnot. It works flawlessly with my iPhone. But when I go to plug that TRRS into a MacBook, it doesn't always work. It's more accepting of like your earbuds, but it's not very accepting of like third-party external things. Rode is actually a subscribed, if you will, service or company that partners with Apple. Our lightning adapters and things like that are all Apple approved. But when you get into just an analog signal like this, it's kind of a crapshoot. You're kind of just hoping for the best.
And it's working perfectly for me. So this is where Ryan and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. This is where we're going to tell you to test it first, so you know if it's working for you or not. And then if you need another solution, you've tested it before you get into a situation where you're at the last minute trying to figure it out, like I was a couple of weeks ago when Ryan had to bail me out. Ryan and Gene
do my best, right?
With me a lot, right? Trying to figure that out.
Love it.
And so one of the things Ryan and I talked about was, okay, so now I've got audio in with my Rode Go mic, but I have to have audio out so that I can hear everybody and their questions, and they're just not just hearing me. And so I'm using a Bose wireless headphone, and I just like this one because I can put it in and it's not so obvious. I don't look like I'm wearing muffins like Ryan does. And I know, I'm just seeing you about your lovely ear muffins. And anyway, but the wireless separates it from the analog signal going in from the mic, and therefore lets me have a separate audio out, which you will probably need to communicate with people. Or you can do what Ryan is doing and wear a headset with both, and that also takes care of that problem, but then you've got ear muffins. So it just depends on how sophisticated you want to be with that.
And Tracy, I'll finalize that with a point that this is a directorial decision, right? Like we talked about this, where Bluetooth is a little finicky, it's a little fickle because it's not very secure. It might drop out, cut in, cut out. You lose a little bit of line of sight. You might have some problems. It might literally kick off your Rode Wireless Go and use its internal built-in microphone that a lot of those will have. So even like using your analog headphones, like the earbuds and stuff like that are not Bluetooth but actually wired as a solution. I really like Shure in-ear monitors if you're going for discretion. It's the same thing an artist or a musician might wear up on stage. The point I gotta mention though is I have a hot microphone right in the room. If my speakers, which are behind the camera right now, were to output my voice, it's gonna go right back into this microphone, creating a feedback loop. And there's a lot of software technology that's going on right now with Zoom and otherwise that are trying to cut those out. If I turn those off, because obviously I'm choosing to not let them go there. And as we've discussed, you can send the output. Remember, we talked about software working with the operating system and so forth. If you send the output of your operating system to a Bluetooth headset and pay attention to that, there is nothing saying you couldn't plug in your wireless Go in and your Bluetooth out. And that's how we've solved your problem with both the look that you're going for and the wireless function that you need. I'm sitting here at this desk. I can have a wire and a stationary microphone, no problem. You all might have that, and you might not. So you got to choose actively. If you're looking for something that would be then more high end, it's something like an audio interface, right? And a lot of companies have something like this. You've all probably heard of them. Focusrite's got something like that. This is the AI one from Rode, just a single channel. I said I was using the Rodecaster Pro. All these things are just things that communicate with your computer and allow you to pump them elsewhere through headphones, out of a wireless. You can literally get an interface and then output a Bluetooth signal via an adapter and not use the operating system's output on your computer. So keep that in mind. And I know everybody's going to have a different way of setting that up every single time we talk about that.
Well, and so one of the things Ryan is doing for us is he has created a list of the items that we might need. And I have that, and we don't have the chat feature turned on right now, but I will put that on the Facebook page to make sure that everybody gets it, so that you can see the different items that are available, the options. And again, we're all here to answer questions and to help you through this. And then the last part of this, Barry, when we talk about NAN lights, I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the color accuracy of these lights compared to what you get across the board on, from Amazon or eBay or elsewhere. Yeah. This is the LED that the pros are shooting with. I am a pro. This is what I use. I was introduced to NAN light with Barry for this incredible project that I got to do this year, commissioned by Zeiss, and it was just such a phenomenal product. But then I called Barry a few months ago, and I was kind of like, all right, I need something just for Zoom casting. And he's like, Tracy, it's $50. I'm amazed. And so again, I'm letting both of us with a $50 light. The one behind me that I was demonstrating for you was it $269 retail?
Yeah, it's about 215 is what you're looking at for that one. And that's the bicolor. So,
and it is on sale right now because now you're doing 20% off right now on
20%.
And so through the end of February, so the sale is not going to last, but through the end of February, there's 20% off on these lights. And what is the model down from this? Is it the 40?
So you have the 68B, which is, we call it the compacts. And then the model down from that is the 40. And I'm sitting here with bad light on my face right now just to prove a point here in a minute. So everybody's looking at me like, why is this guy sitting with little slashes on his face? It's because I haven't closed up the window that's sitting next to me. But what Tracy was saying is true. You can use a window if it's next to you, and you can be able to open or close and do that. But what we like to do is kind of control the light ourselves and just be able to be a little bit more dramatic. As Gene was saying, everybody's kind of wanting a little bit better look when they're trying to do this stuff. So that's why you want to be able to control the light, much like Tracy was doing with the model, and making sure that you can have the light where you need it to be so that you look good for your audition. Really, NAN lights is the lights that we're talking about are compact lights, and compact lights are little lights that have a punch to them. So like she was doing, moving the light back or farther or closer to that person, obviously the person's getting lighter or darker depending on how far you move the light away from them. But that light gives you enough punch that's soft light, so it's wrapping. So it's very flattering for all of us because we all look good in soft light. So we always want to try to do our best to kind of get off angle from the camera, just like Tracy was doing, showing a perfect way to light somebody, and using a reflector of some sort, whether it's a round reflector that you can get at B&H, or a lot of times I'll just use a piece of white card that my daughter has from like a poster board or
these
foam
V
core.
flats are phenomenal.
Yeah, V flats work fantastic too.
So I have another, you can kind of see it leaning right there. I have another V flat that I use. That's what I use in my studio downstairs. I just use the V flat as a reflector, and it's so simple and so easy. And on the list we're going to give you from B&H, they do have a full size reflector if you want to buy the fancy reflector, and they also have the V flat, the item number for the V flat on there, so that you can see that. The V flats are a little bit more expensive. It's $200 for the V flat. Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it. We can absolutely see it. So this list that we're sending you, Barbara specifically said, please make sure you have a tripod on there. So we made sure to put a tripod. There's the collapsible reflector, the Rode Go. I think, Gene, they only put the 7C on the list, and I do want everybody to know about the 6100 and 6400 because I think those are great options. Go back up a little bit, Barbara. One more. No, down. I'm sorry, you went up too far. To the light stand, the impact light stand.
Yeah.
$20. You need a light stand to use with the light. You only need one light, one stand. The light stand is $20, literally, and this will work just fine. With the tripods, you know, I asked for some inexpensive tripods, so B&H populated this with some inexpensive options, but you want to make sure the tripod is high enough for you to be able to, with the camera, look in your eyes or your actor's eyes. So you do want to make sure that it will extend high enough. And Barry, you were the one that pointed that out. They gave us a couple of different options here for the cables to the camera. This particular cable, the Tether Tools cable, is the only cable out there right now, I think, that is 15 feet long. So that gives you a little bit more room to run your camera to your computer. So, I mean, you may not need that. I have one at home that's only a foot long because my camera sits right behind my monitor at home. But this one, when I'm doing a live presentation, and this was the shotgun mic that they put in. Ryan, I don't know if this is the one. Is this the one that you would recommend?
Rode kind of prides themselves, and anybody who's looked up a Rode microphone is like, I've seen like 15 of them, and that's true. We do have quite a few options. It's all about price to feature. This is the starter set for a shotgun microphone from Rode. Part of my vlogger kit that I have over here on the side that I may show a little later is the micro. It's $60. It's not a shotgun. It's going to pick up more of the room and the place you're in. This is the very first shotgun for the Rode line. And sitting next to me is the VideoMic NTG, which is the pro level. It's got all the buttons, all the flash, all the flare.
Right. But again, you don't need all the flash and all the flare. I mean, the Rode Go system, which was early on the list, $199, and that gives you a receiver and a transmitter and gives you an option to use a lav later on if you want to. And there's the V-Flat that I'm using from V-Flat World, foldable V-Flat, folds down to 4 feet by 4 feet, comes in a big giant bag, which I love because I can just sling it over my shoulders when I'm going up and down. And $195 or two for like $385, I think, something like that. Crazy. Another tripod option. Yeah, they just tried to give us some range of tripods. This is another cable option, C2C. This is only a 6.5 foot cable. So if you don't need 15 feet, this is $16 and is a great option. And then they gave us their version of the capture card. No, this is just a card reader. I thought that was the capture card. I don't think we need a card reader on any of this. The LumaPad this is the slightly bigger one than the $50 one that I'm using to light myself now. And when we started this program, we had daylight, so we've lost our daylight. So my LumaPad was set up for the daylight. I apologize. But for $50 to $110, you can do the LumaPad. I really think the compact, which is what I've been lighting myself with for Zooms at home, which is the one I've got over here, is a much better option because then you only have one light to do everything and you're not having to buy multiple lights. Sure. And then this was the camera, the 7C that they populated in. Gene, is the 6100 and 6400, are those still difficult to get?
Yeah, for the moment, they're very, very popular systems. So, probably for the next month or so. We're gonna be everybody kind of wants them.
I'm just turned on the compact so that we can add some light back in.
If you guys are frantically trying to write down these names and things, I actually just put this link here. I put it on my Facebook page where you saw to come to the Zoom. I just said, here's our wish list, so you can click on it and see it yourself.
And a special thank you again to B&H Camera, Audio, Photo, Video, whatever the whole name is. I basically reached out to them a couple of weeks ago and said I wanted to create a wish list, and they did this for me. So I mean, they looked up all the SKU numbers and populated this, and I'm so appreciative that they put this together. So B&H, if you're ever watching this, Stephanie Gross, I just absolutely adore you.
Anything else you want to talk about?
The next one, the compact 68B. Go one more. Go down, go down. No, were you there? Yes, right
68.
there.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So this is the light I just turned on. This is the one that I was demonstrating with Bliss a little while ago. This light is magic. It is, Barry, can you tell us a little bit about the B versus the non?
Yeah, to talk a bit about difference between bicolor and daylight. So you're going to come across things that are going to say this is a bicolor light or this is a daylight. What they mean is the color temperature, or what the color temperature looks like. Typically a daylight tends to be more blue. Sometimes we see this now when we go and buy light bulbs in Home Depot and Lowe's. You're going to get a color temperature range for the LED lights that you're putting in your house now. A lot of times, though, in a bicolor light, you have the ability to have a wide range of colors. So you have the 3200 degrees Kelvin, which looks a lot like the lamps we used to have, the tungsten lamps we had in our houses a long time ago. That type of color temperature, which is a little warmer, a little more yellow, tends to be the range that is. And it goes all the way up to the daylight temperature, which tends to be a little more blue. Now in there, you have a 4600 degrees Kelvin range. That, for lack of a better term, that just means you're mixing some daylight and tungsten together, kind of what you get sometimes when you have indoor light and your window light coming in on you. You get a little mix of the 4600 degrees Kelvin. So that's the difference between a daylight light and a bicolor light.
So if you are setting your camera, because you're doing this under camera and not your iPhones, if you set your camera to 5600, it will match a daylight light, and you don't have to add the extra money to buy the bicolor light. If you want to emulate tungsten light or have the need to use with tungsten light, then you might want to just go ahead and spend the money on the bicolor light. So that is completely up to you. I use everything at 5600 and I set my camera to 5600. So, the bicolor is kind of wasted on me. It just is because I know 5600 is daylight studio light and I'm setting everything to the same temperature. I have even purchased all of my overhead lights are set between 5,000 and 6,000 depending on the light bulb. Good. I've just changed out all of my light bulbs to daylight lights, but I've changed them out to the ones that you can adjust on your iPad or your iPhone. And so I can actually adjust the temperature with my iPad or iPhone, but I leave it if it's a max 6,000 or a max 5,000. I leave it at whatever the max Kelvin is, so that if I have to turn on my overhead lights or something, I'm not changing the color temperature throughout my entire room. So that might be something that you want to do in your studio room also. Somebody said to me earlier, okay, well, I'm lighting with a light overhead and I've changed my bulb. Don't do that. You want your light to come at you from about the same height that you are filming at. Just like I adjusted the light up and down until you could see the correct color in their eyeballs, that's what you want to do. You want that light to be adjusted so that you see the light in your eyes. A lot of times you'll see the taping instructions will tell you that the eyes should be the correct color. They should be able to see the color of your eyes. This is how you're going to do that. You're going to put that light, just move it up and down until you see the correct color, and you're going to put it in the right place. And then you're going to be able to see into their eyes. And it's just so simple. And you only need this one light. And again, if you don't buy anything else tonight, I want you to buy this light. $215 on sale. And Barry, again, is it the 40 that's the right below?
Yeah, the 41 is the one that's right below that. And that's the 40 tends to run price-wise. Can be about $110 or so. That's usually what you're looking at for the daylight version. And if you want the bicolor version, it's like $135.
And I'm going to tell you the main difference between the two lights is with the 40, you're pretty much going to adequately be able to light head and shoulders.
Yeah, that's what you're going to want.
The 8 is going to give you some fall off so you can do more of the body or multiple people. So you're only taping yourself or a child $110 and you can get the compact 40. It's just so simple. If you need more light, then you might want to upgrade to the 68.
Hey, Tracy, we've got some questions from BJ Wyland. Doucette? BJ, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I had to get on unmute first. Okay. You were talking about getting rid of ring lights. Well, I just got mine about 6 months ago, but mine does have the option of changing colors. I've got 3 different color ranges I can get on my ring light, and
Sure.
I can adjust the intensity of it. Of course,
Yes, ma'am.
mine came from Australia, so I don't know if that makes a difference.
It won't. A lot of times nowadays, BJ, you're going to see, since you have the 3 different colors, that's what the bicolor that we were talking about. It just, yours happens to be what they call veritable color.
Okay.
No big deal. You're kind of want to use the daylight like Tracy recommended because it's going to be what you want. You may not want to put your camera in there because you're going to get those little rings in your eyes. That's what people are going to see.
And you're going to look demonic. So
Yeah, yeah.
So you
So-
want to, you're going to use a ring light. You want to use it the same way I just showed you how to use this light.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, with not being back at work just yet or completely, you know, it's, you know, we've got to make do with what we have right at this point. But at least I'll know what to get when the time comes.
Well,
Sure.
and again, if you're using the ring light, you want to position it the same way I just showed you and how to position the compact light. Where if you haven't bought these yet, to the audience there that hasn't bought anything yet and is trying to figure out what to buy or wants to upgrade, I'm going to try to steer you away from the ring lights because the cheap ring lights are just not nearly as accurate as what we're getting with the NAN lights. They don't last as long. The plugs, I've had so many people come in and the plugs don't stay in any longer. I mean, they're being mass produced. There's not a lot of quality assurance. If you use a ring light the way you're supposed to use a ring light, then you look demonic because you've got circles in your eyes. So don't do that. Use it the way I've just showed you, and at least it's going to mimic to some degree the light that we're using now, but it's not going to give you quite the kind of flat, even illumination that we're getting from this compact.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, you know, at least I can use what I've got right now until I
yeah.
can.
I'm
For
just,
sure.
yeah, but just use it off camera to the side and, you know, feather it as you need to and fill it with a reflector if you can.
That's what I've been doing. Okay.
Great.
All righty. Cool. Thank you.
Taylor Kate. Taylor Kate,
Hi.
you got a question?
Hey, I do. You're probably gonna think this is the silliest question, but when you're saying to set the camera to 5600, are you talking about the ISO?
No, I'm talking about the Kelvin temperature,
Okay.
your color balance.
Okay,
So
got it.
you want to set it to, I think on most cameras, they're going to have a setting for flash, and
Okay.
flash is going to equal 5600.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's very helpful.
It'll be in your white menu, your white balance menu, I believe, right? This is something I've been learning recently.
Okay.
Is the audio guy?
Yeah, it's in the white balance
A
menu.
dial or a slider, if it does for a flash, that's what you're looking for.
Thank you so much.
How about Joshua Bennett something?
Schwartz, hi. I just had a couple questions about 4K video, which was mentioned earlier. The first was, has 4K become the standard for at-home tapings, or is 1080 more appropriate for most submissions?
If you want me to answer, it's 1080. I mean,
1080.
honestly, I think 4K would be a total nightmare.
Yeah.
Not just that, I think it's not only it's
Very
not only
large
a nightmare
files,
for
and
the
you don't need
agent,
those.
it's a nightmare for makeup artists. I mean, the first thing I ever saw in 4K, I was flown out to Sony Studios, and they had this huge theater that was just dedicated to 4K, and they played the movie Groundhog Day. And, you know, and I was really jet lagged, but there were over 100 of us in there, like from the industry looking at it. You could see every bad makeup job and every blemish. I mean, Bill Murray's poor face, you know, pock marks. I mean, it was just like, you just don't want people to see all that. I mean, I think if anything, 4K, what 4K will give you to do is the ability to zoom in and do some type of artifacting and different types of shot selections, because it's literally, you know, 4 times the size of high definition. But as far as outputting, absolutely not. You always want to outboard as a 1080 application. You know, usually you can use the 4K footage, but output it as 1080 because it'll look every type of error and flaw will be in high detail there if that was the case.
Well, and not only
Also-
that, 1080 is going to compress it as well and make it easier to send. And I'm sorry, Barbara, I didn't mean to step on you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And keep in mind that agents neither agents nor casting directors want to have to download and deal with auditions that are more than about 25, 30 megabytes. And you guys are sending us these works of art that are 5 and 6 and 700 megabytes. It's ridiculous. We don't have time for that. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. And they're like, but it's a long audition. I'm like, yeah, well, you're not Scorsese, whatever. But just keep in mind, file size matters.
Yes, yeah, and it matters on your computer. A lot of you guys don't have the computer capacity to really do a long form piece like that. I mean, your computer hates you. Your hard
Think
drive.
about your phone. Your phone hates you. They can do 4K now too. It all hates
Those little
you.
fans kick on your computer and they're just whirling away when they're working with 4K video.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
You know, working with all the pixels, it matters. Yeah.
Melody, did you have a question still?
Yeah, this is a different question. But thank you for clearing up my other issue. That's great. Thank you first. This has been amazingly helpful. I have been trying to learn this for the longest time. So I'm truly, truly grateful for your time. A lot of the discussion around what lights to use were based on if you're using that mirrorless type of camera. And I'm just curious if you could recommend. I have to film with I just have an iPhone. And so I'm not sure how to adjust the temperature on that. I can Google it around and maybe there's a way, but is there one of the lights that you've recommended tonight that you think is particularly good if you're having to iPhone tape?
The same light, use the same exact light. This light is, I am coming to you right now through my computer instead of my camera. So my computer is making the decisions. I didn't change my temperature. My computer just correctly changed to match this. But that 5600 works with my computer, with my iPhone, with everything. And this light, because it is an LED and it is what we call a constant light, works just beautifully with devices and computers as well as with cameras. So this is like the most versatile lighting piece of equipment that you're going to be able to use, and definitely the one I would recommend. The strobe that I use in my my studio work, that's a quick fire, but that does have an LED. That's a modeling light, but that LED is not as strong as this is. The output is so much better and so much more even with more surface, that if I'm using a constant, that's really what I'm looking for.
Thanks.
I'm really sorry, but I can't get it to make it stop showing my computer.
Down in the bottom right, hit the zoom button. Click zoom back up on you, and then you should be able on the bottom.
On the bottom.
Turn off the share screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down in the bottom of your Zoom window.
Bottom center, it should give you an option to turn off, to stop sharing.
Yeah, I'll see it.
Do you see it up at the top? Look up at the top in the middle, the very top.
Hold on.
You see a green button up at the top?
There it is.
Okay.
Stop share. Thank you.
There, no worries.
There we go. All right. What other questions do we have?
Laura Chapman.
Honest, you should ask them.
Laura.
Awesome. Okay. I have a question. So I'm very familiar with Rode because my husband is an audio engineer. So
Awesome.
A lot of the things you were talking about, I had flashbacks of him
post
going on about that. So I'm glad it made sense now. But we've been using a boom mic actually to use our audio, just so we didn't have the lapel in the shot. Does the company that you guys were recommending, do they have any suggestions for booms, or do y'all have anything against boom mics?
The first thing is more about technique. A lot of the conversation today, although mentioning gear, we still got to use it correctly. And the first thing I always ask is, how's your room? If your room's bad, mic's going to be bad. I have what's called a dynamic microphone right in front of me. The shotgun microphones are condenser microphones. So they're aggressive, they're hyperactive. I'm not even talking about directionality. I'm just talking about how sensitive they are. This microphone is not. So if I have my air conditioner on, heater this time of year on, it's less likely to come into this microphone. Once I pull a boom mic out, and those are going to be on average, depending on which microphone you bought, but Rode mic, the NTG I mentioned earlier, the video mic Go that we were talking about earlier, I can place this right out of my shot. This is the professional setup. You've all probably been on set and had this exact microphone, not this mic, but this positioning going on. The first mantra in my class is it's not about how far from the mic you can get. It's how close you can get the microphone without ruining the shot. And I just want everybody to repeat that as much as humanly possible. The reason the Wireless Go is really good, at its price point, you're getting freedom from a cable, and then the microphone's 6 inches away from your mouth. It's still a condenser microphone. So if your room's loud, it's still going to pick up your room when you stop talking. So nothing wrong with your shotgun. If it's a Rode, if it's anybody else, if you can get it closer, the better it's going to be. And then after that, you need to try to control your room, carpets, rugs. Right now I'm on a 15 by 10, Walmart rug. My wall is treated with some of the foam filtering and stuff like that. And so when you walk into this room, although it's just my home office, and my fiance teased me about this all the way through the steps, but those kind of things make a huge deal in sound. You'll literally walk into the room and hear it change. And you want that because that's controlling all those reflections and things like that. So keep using your shotgun microphone. And I'm not even recommending that you need to buy another microphone to solve the problem, but get it closer and get your room under control.
Awesome. And then one more question for the two women. With the foldable backdrop that you have, when it comes to full body shots for the slates, do you just show the outside? How do you handle?
I don't worry about that. So when I'm doing a full body for a slate, okay, so one of the things I do, because I am a professional photographer, is I take a full body shot that looks pretty and then I just put it in the video. So I'm using a still for the full body shot, and then I just Ken burns it up and down so that, it's easy and it's just one shot. But it really doesn't matter. They're not expecting that full body shot to be pretty. They understand you're going to have other things in their room. They just want to see your body shape. The great thing about using a white wall is that you would just have more space, or a white curtain. I just happen to have my V-flat set up. But, I'm just not going to, it's just so that they can see the body shape. It's a quick shot. And I think that is something we're overcomplicating. What you really want to make sure is that your close-up is right, that your sound is right, your picture quality looks good for your actual audition, for your callback, or for your table read. I think that is much more important than whether or not we're showing the edges of our background for a full body shot. Barbara, do you have anything different to add on that?
No, I was going to say, I know that Zoe just does it and then she crops it when she adds it to the end of her video. And Laura, I want to say, you said you didn't want them to see the lavalier peeking out or whatever. Who cares if it is? This is not going into the final product. This is an audition. We just want you to be seen as well as possible and heard as well as possible. But they don't care if they see a little microphone or something.
I just I'm trying to clip it, but I'm doing it backwards. It's like Ginger Rogers dancing with Fred Astaire, backwards and in heels.
Yep.
But that's a lavalier mic. It is not distracting. It is, this just clips into your belt if you're going to use a lavalier mic. It's not distracting. It's not huge, and you would be able to hear me. And really, nobody's noticing that, because they should be noticing your face should be the brightest part of this anyway. And they should be noticing your face, which is something else. I'm just going to say this real quick so that you have this input. Don't wear white and don't wear black, because when you wear white, their eyes may go down to your shirt instead of your face. And when you wear black, you're just going to be a floating head. So wear a color, and a little bit darker color is kind of beneficial. But anyway, I'm stopping on that one. That's
with that lavalier microphone, the only time is, I know you're all probably experienced in me placing that microphone on your person while doing the job, hiding it, booming it, all that stuff. That is not, most people, when they see your production that you're doing, an interview or just a taping, so they can see you firsthand, if you got a microphone that's in position, they actually appreciate that. Even if it's subconsciously, it just instantly upgrades the quality. We've all watched a YouTube video of somebody trying to teach us something. I don't care how good you're at the guitar. If I can't hear your voice very well or that guitar very well, I'm probably going on to the next video to find another person teaching me the exact same thing, but better. YouTube's done a lot of research on that. So run with that. The higher quality audio you have and the higher quality video and lighting you have, they're going to grab onto you before they even know they grabbed onto you. So don't be turned off by adding that microphone on there.
Awesome. Thank you.
To see the emotion in your eyes and how you are interacting, and we want them to hear the emotion in your voice. And so if your audio and your video are not very good and your lighting is not very good, you have lost that opportunity to connect with the writer, director, producer on the other side. So we want to give them every moment to connect with you. We want them to see your eyes and connect with your eyes, and we want them to be able to hear you adequately so that they can hear all of the nuances in your audition.
Let's go with Joshua, then Taiwan, then Elizabeth, then Loretta. Go, Josh.
Hi, sorry. I just had one follow-up on that previous question. As far as the file, besides the 1080p, do you find that the industry has a preferred video format when one isn't suggested, like .mov, MPEGs, that kind of thing?
Gene, that's a good
MPEG,
question.
Yeah, I mean, like, the answer like .mp4. I mean, that's very widely used, but .mov is certainly the cleanest video, and it's the easiest to watch, especially without stuttering, just because the compression levels aren't jumping all over the place. Because even though some of these files might be smaller than a slightly larger file, the fact is that it takes the computer a little bit more time to unwrap it and interpret it and read it. And that's kind of, you want something that's going to be really smooth and not stutter at all or anything like that. So that's why most people do run with .mov. QuickTime is a very, very good. It's been the industry standard for I mean, since I started in pro video, I think I was in the early, like in the year 2000, 2001. And I'm old. But MP4 obviously is another popular extension. So, and it helps out. But obviously, and then making sure you record your audio correctly at 48 hertz, instead of not 44.1, and making sure that everything is in check. That's what it's really cool.
Barbara, what are you finding that they're requesting on tapes? Are they still requesting .mov?
Usually, yeah. It's just the easiest to share and to watch.
I think rule of thumb right now, until something better comes along, it's .mov, because you don't need QuickTime Player. I don't think it's kind of embedded.
Yeah, it's universal. It's universal.
Yeah. So I would go with that and try not to. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Hey, bro, don't fix it.
Next. Come on.
Good evening. My question is audio when you're using a virtual reader for an audition. Do you have any recommendations for how to improve that quality since that person is not in the room with you? Sometimes
you don't really have to hear the virtual the reader. I mean, it is really about you and your responses. I think if you just have it, a little in the background. Again, with the Rode Go, the thing that I really love about the Rode Go's is that it's picking you up from your point of view and not from the point of the computer or the point of the camera. And I think if you've got the sound on you instead of the camera or the monitor, then it's going to be appropriate. I mean, it really is. The audition is not about the reader. The audition is about you and how you are responding. So the main source of the sound needs to be from you.
Thank you.
Beth Hale?
Hi, I apologize for getting in a few minutes late. I missed the Zoom link. And I'm sure this has probably already been talked about, but I wanted to ask about the, I think I'm saying this correctly, the loom lights versus the softbox. I'm in the process of upgrading my home lighting and was looking very deeply at the softbox, but it sounds like the part that I've heard so far is I'm better off looking at the single loom light. Is that correct?
Well, the compact is actually the one that I'm recommending. The loom pad is a very good option. The compact is just going to give you it's Nanlite, Nanlite, compact, and it is just going to give you a nice broad flat surface to kind of give you a really pretty even light. And this is, you know, when I was demonstrating this earlier, and Beth, I don't know if you saw this or not, but the closer you can get the light, the softer the quality of the light is. And that is going to give you a more cinematic kind of light. So you want to get the light as close as you can and still be out of your camera frame.
Is it a concern using the one light? I'm sorry, I'm not using the right terminology.
No, I know.
The loom light.
One
Yeah.
light. You don't need
The
to.
one.
You don't need 2 or 3.
Is
One
that
light.
better? Is that better in terms of shadows behind you versus the 2 softbox?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, the shadows are going to be thrown when you're too close to your background. So in order to eliminate the shadows, just move off your background a little bit.
Okay.
And, I mean, you can, of course, you can cross light the background to brighten it up to avoid shadows, but that's a lot of lights that you really don't have to have. Just move off of your background so you're lighting the subject and not the background, and you're good.
Beth,
Okay,
as you get the light closer to you as well, remember that the LED lights have dimmers on them. You can dim it down. It doesn't have to be as bright. So Tracy's right. Moving the light closer to you, you can take some of the brightness out of it if you have to, if it's too harsh.
Right. I had found that with the ring light that somebody had mentioned earlier, just for some personal use, not for auditions, that softening that light down and getting it really right next to my iPhone or iPad really did the trick. Okay,
What Tracy was saying, though, is to make sure and have that light off of where your camera is, though, because it's going to look more flattering for you. It's going to wrap your face a lot better and be softer. So, which is a much flattering look for everyone.
Okay. So when we have shadow and light, we get dimension, and we pop a little bit more from our background. When we're evenly lit, then that's when we call it flat, because we just merge into the background. And already we're talking about a 2-dimensional media. It's not 3-dimension, it's not 4-dimension, but our light, our shadow, and our light in the absence of light can help give us perspective and dimension and help make us emerge from the picture. And that is what's going to give us a more cinematic quality. So that's why we're telling you to do it this way. One light that's a little off camera, you can feather it until you get it pleasing to where you want it. Raise it up and down so you can see the color of the eyes correctly when you get it into the right spot. And it's just, you're going to get a much more cinematic audition than if you're overlighting or lighting from straight on.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Go to Loretta and then Leslie.
How you doing? This is Daniel. I'm actually Loretta's husband. I tend to help her with a lot of the filming part from behind the camera. My question was, are camcorders a viable option versus a DSLR? And if so, what camcorder would be good?
Do you have one that still works?
No, I don't have a camcorder. I was just curious about possibly getting a modern camcorder.
Well, I mean, I think a modern camcorder is a mirrorless camera. I don't know that anybody is really making camcorders anymore.
You know,
than a camcorder.
Like most companies, I think Sony, everybody is kind of getting out of phase with all that. I've been getting a lot of questions about that the past couple of weeks, which has been surprising. But face detection autofocusing, being what it is now, can really get as close or even better in a lot of cases than a traditional camcorder. And remember, when you're talking about a camcorder, you're talking about the sensor size of basically an iPhone or a phone. So a phone is pretty much replaced pretty much what a camcorder would be, just to be brutally honest. I mean, things are trending more towards, really more improved depth of field, better lighting situations. So a sensor like an ILC, mirrorless system is going to be so much better than something like a camcorder. I mean, those were so horrible in lower lighting conditions. I mean, the signal to noise ratio used to break up really quick. Whereas with a lot of these newer cameras, which is why people are going to them, is because in different lighting situations, they actually, can really excel what people's expectations are and leave that, you have such a nice little safety net to work with. And now that autofocusing has come such a long way, I mean, tracking movement and everything, and even eye autofocusing, I know Trace will be like, oh, you're trying, Sony lenses. I'm like, yeah, using our lenses with our cameras. I mean, eye autofocus tracking is amazing. So
Our bodice lenses work with them too. So
okay, all right, sure. They do.
I'll add to that from an audio perspective as well, and that audio has always been a little bit more difficult on camcorders. They're usually just an 1/8 inch jack, no power typically out of those, and more modern cameras are going to be a lot more upfront and honest about the audio and so forth like that. But you have way less features in most of the camcorders as well. So clients that have had a camcorder before looking to try to use those as well, and they still struggle with trying to actually capture decent stuff into those, just trying because they already have it, So look into the DSLRs, look into the full frame cameras, and you'll be happy later as well. You won't be already out of date.
I mean, you don't even need full frame at this point. I mean, APS-C is perfect. I mean,
True.
I mean, and especially when prices, I mean, the price of technology has never been more affordable, to make it look so good, And like I said, I'm even, now, and honestly, like with nan lights, for example, I mean, I've been using constant lights and strobes for freaking over almost 2 decades now. And just to have this accessibility of this natural color, in just in my bedroom where I can use it now for such a low price point. And even, from an audio component, not having to go out and buy expensive preamps for, Rode MTG1 or something, for my old Sennheiser kits and everything. I mean, it's just, you've got people have never got it so good, and you can do it on a budget. So, I mean, there are 1,000 ways to do the right thing, people. I mean, I'm just gonna play. That's my tough love thing. It's like if you're getting bad video with any of these tools, it is not the camera or the lighting or audio fault. It is you have to do what's best for you, and hopefully use common practice to kind of keep up your learning curve to make sure that you there for the work you want.
Yeah. How about Leslie?
Hi. Thank you all so much for being here and sharing your expertise today. Thanks, Barbara, for setting all of this up. Okay, so I have a question about lighting. Right now, I use, like you said, the softbox system, 3 points that I bought on Amazon, not expensive. And I've been to a number of workshops with casting directors, and they always compliment the technical aspects. So I'm reasonably happy with it, but I still want to upgrade. And I would love to get those big soft boxes out of my house. So I love the LED, and I fully intend to upgrade to it. But I'm not sure that I'm clear on how you use a reflector, because I've always used actual lights. And I'm also, I've learned that when I put a light behind me, I really like how it makes me sort of pop off the wall a little bit, and there's no shadows at all. So could you talk to me about cross light, how to actually utilize a reflector, or would it be just as easy for me to get a second light since it's just more in my comfort zone without flattening myself out? And what is feathering?
Okay, so first of all, what I just did while I was moving around is one of my lights had popped out, my battery had died, so I just put a fresh battery in. So now I am cross lit. I have 2 lights. I have one on each side. And I moved this light. If you've noticed, the light is a lot less harsh on me than it was a few minutes ago. I've moved my daughter's laundry out of the way, and I moved the light a lot closer. So, so now you see less, or the other side of my face because I'm backwards on Zoom, you see less of the harsh shadows and it's softer. So the closer you can get your light, the softer the quality of light is going to be. What a reflector will do is it will give you some fill from the other side. Instead of a second light, your reflector is your second light, but it's not filling at an even level. So it's creating more shadow on one side, which is going to give you more of a cinematic appearance. So basically you're lighting from one side, you're filling on the other, and how strong that fill is depends on if you're using a white or silver reflector. White will be less strong, silver will be stronger, and how close the reflector is. Your quality of light is always going to be softer when it's toward and harsher when it's further away. So we call that the law of inverse square, which is more than you ever wanted to know. But basically, think about a projector. If you're projecting something and it is your image that you're projecting to, your theater image is slightly fuzzy, How you sharpen that is you move the light, you move the projector away.
Correct.
And you get fuzzier, softer when you move it toward. So the light, the closer you are, the softer it is, and the further away, the harsher it is. You want that light to have this nice, soft, cinematic appearance. You want to get it as close as you possibly can and still be out of your frame. And then depending on how much shadow you want on the other side of your face, you can use a second light, or you can fill with a reflector so that you have more shadow and a more of a three-dimensional kind of appearance. What you are going to get when you got two lights, and if you were looking closely at my eyes, you'd be able to see this, and I don't think I can get close enough for you to see it. I have two pinpoints in my eyes because I have two lights.
We see it?
Yes.
With a reflector, you're not really going to get that same kind of harsh pinpoint in the eyeball. So it does look a little bit more natural. You really are trying to make a connection with your eyes. You want to give yourself as much of a natural lighting appearance as you can, which is why I'm recommending this bigger compact from Nanlite, because that gives me a nice flat broad source for one side versus the other. Bliss, can you sit here for me? And I'm going to show you about feathering, just so that you can watch the difference in the light on Bliss. You can kind of see it as I feather it toward and away from her. So you can see how the dimension changes depending on the position of the light. So really it's just a personal preference on where you want that light to be. And that's all I'm doing, is I'm just changing the position of the light. And that's what we mean by feathering, because when you change that panel from broad to slightly angled, you're allowing the light to kind of fall off at a different angle. And that's basically all we mean by feathering, is I'm going from flat to more dimension.
She's placing not just light, she's placing shadow too. Real photographers know how to do that. They know how to place a shadow on somebody's face and set it so that it looks natural and it looks three-dimensional in the look. So nice, Tracy, looks good, always does.
So I am trying to light both Bliss and I for this conversation. So adding that second light back in.
You guys look good. You look good.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that I flattened this out a little bit here, maybe a little less cinematic, but I'm lighting both of us.
Right.
If I'm lighting just me, then I'm just going to get what's most flattering for me. And because I'm not trying to broaden my light to light more than just me, I'm just lighting me as the subject, or if I'm just lighting Bliss. So
I was doing with myself too. I use a kick light on myself. So it lights the side of me, but if I drop it, I get more shadow. So I a little more dramatic. Sometimes it's not so dramatic when you're doing that, but it's just the example. The same thing you just showed, though. It's exactly what it is.
And so Ryan, you're using one light in a panel. Is that what you were saying?
I'm using 3.
Yeah.
I got a little.
I'm using 4 actually, but I won't tell anybody
nice.
that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just Tracy, just to come back on that though, it's like what people. And again, I was taught, and these are all things I might have learned yesterday. The depth of field that I have here, I had a backdrop, and I was just getting weird lighting and stuff. I'm in my 10 by 10, 15 by 10 office, and share it with my fiance. So that's just her desk back there, and I was getting in. What's that? I just needed it to fall off so that it's not just like, if you can see the actual things back there, it was distracting and things like that. But the blue light does add a little bit more drama and stuff like that. So those are, of course, extra. But I'm just doing 3-point lighting. The first thing on tutorials you might find about lighting is just 3-point lighting. I got a key, I got to fill.
The point of this is you don't need 3-point lighting. You can do this
you don't.
light. So let's, I think we should really give up the 3-point light kits, because we're overlighting ourselves. We're making it more complicated. And you can do this with one light. But the other thing I'd like to say is you don't see a shadow.
I'm way too dramatic now.
You are. You don't see a shadow behind me because I am 10 feet from that wall. So you can just eliminate that shadow by pulling off the wall. A white wall, when it's not lit, goes gray. A gray wall is really perfect for a self-tape audition.
Yeah.
So that was incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
If I am in a room where maybe I'm not able to come as far off the wall as I would need to for the shadows to drop away, how would you backlight to add a little interest? Like hair light is something that often they talk about. I don't know if it's really that important. but definitely getting the shadows out is important. So how would you do that with lighting?
Just take a small light and add it directly to your wall.
Yeah, I sometimes use a kick light when I'm doing webinars and things like that. I don't ever use a hair light much anymore. I kick something on my ear, my shoulder, sometimes like that, just to give myself a little more dimension sometimes. That's a way of doing it as well. And like Tracy said, sometimes adding just a slash of light or something on the wall takes some of that away from your definition of you to where the wall is. So.
Okay. Thank you so much.
If you use a gray wall or a gray curtain, the shadows are not going to be as harsh also as they would be on a white wall. So you might just use a gray background. And I didn't pull it out, but Westcott makes this great X-drop system, which is just like aluminum frame that sets up in seconds with a flannel background that doesn't really create any harsh shadows. And it's, I think with a backdrop, you can buy it with a gray backdrop, like $130, and just set it up right behind you, and bang, you got it solved.
So I actually just bought a backdrop that's going to be very much like that. So maybe that will solve my problem. And I'm not trying to monopolize this. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Great questions.
When you say, I just use a kick light, I don't know what that is. And do you aim it at the wall?
I'm sorry. When I'm using a kick light, for me, I might use a light that's it's to the back of me. It might be kind of where you can see my hand. But instead of hitting the back of my head or my hair light, I'm hitting my ears or my shoulders just to break it up a little bit so that I'm different from the background. Since I have a light on behind me right now that's actually hitting the wall behind me, that's my breakup. Instead of I'm not using a backlight or a kick light here. I'm just using that as you guys can tell I'm sitting in a room, so it makes it easier. But when I do a webinar type stuff, I tend to use something a little more on my shoulders and sometimes on my head or the back of my side, because I like the little definition that it kind of gives, like I was showing before.
Create separation.
Yeah, separation. Thank you, Jane. That's what I'm looking for most of the time, because I'm like you, I'm using a backdrop when I do those webinars, and I tend to throw a little blue color, kind of like what Ryan has, but I do, sometimes I'll throw a little something like a breakup pattern on there as well. I get a little crazy when I do some of these things sometimes because I'm bored. I'm sitting in my house, so.
Right. Well, and I apologize. I don't want to like make you all think that this is what you need, but I do this almost daily, teaching about microphones, and
yeah, exactly.
It's just something that like being in the industry, we have these things, and I've talked a lot more with COVID and everything with people who are doctors and lawyers, and they're like, now I do a podcast. What do I need? It's like, well, you go from a $60, I might do this, I might not do it, up to a, $10,000 professional setup. But like, if you don't need to do this, like Tracy was saying, we want to reiterate that this is a stair-step process. You get one thing, make it a little better. Get a second thing, make it a little more better. Or better? Yes, you get it.
So basically, I'm taking an additional LED light and I'm just adding it like to the bottom of Bliss, and I've kind of separated her shoulders and everything, and that's a kick light. But again, it's really not necessary.
It's not.
Now I'm trying to turn it off and I'm not being able to turn it off. Here we go.
That's great. Thank you so much. And also, I'll just say that what you had to say about being able to use your DSLR when you use Zoom is just wildly helpful, because I've had to try to reinvent my taping system to be able to do it through my computer for Zoom, and I bought a ring light and just been trying to piece things together, and it's not working that well. So that was incredibly helpful, just to have that one card that would make utilization of a DSLR possible. Thank you.
We have a new expert who has joined us. We'd like to say welcome to Isabella. Hi, Isabella.
How about William and Muhammad? Do y'all have questions?
Yes, I actually have the question. Thank you guys for sharing your Sunday evening with us. Can you guys hear me? By the way, I have my headphones on, so I can't really tell.
Yeah, gotcha.
Perfect. So we're all trying to achieve that cinematic look with the lumen light. And for those of us like you, Tracy, wear glasses. The closer that we're going to get it, the softer that it is, but then it's going to create a reflection on our glasses. What can I do about that?
Yeah, so you're not seeing too much of a reflection on my glasses or Jean's glasses. We've just gone up a little bit with our light.
I do the same
Yeah,
thing.
but the closer, the closer that I get to it, because we want that, shoulder and head shot.
This light is 3 feet from me.
Sure. Okay. So where you have it, what you said earlier is to have a positioned eye level. I
Right.
did that just now, and it showed, the reflections
Just if you're trying
on
to
the
get the
glasses.
reflections out of your glasses, just go up slightly on your light or lower your face a little bit. And you're taking care of it. This is a case where you have to sacrifice one thing for the other. I am
Yeah.
sacrificing a little bit of the true eye color because I have to get the reflection out of my glasses, but that's how you get the reflection out of your glasses. Another thing that really helps is when you order your glasses, get the anti-glare coating. It does make a huge difference.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'll just raise it up a little bit and go from there. Like it's a learning process, and we just have to keep
You see
trying.
the light, when I come down, it disappears.
Yes. Yes.
You just have to sacrifice one thing for another. Just don't, try to find that best medium that works for you.
Sure. So one more thing. Am I only using that one light and using a reflector, or do you recommend
I would
two
recommend,
lights?
if you've got glasses, I would just use the one light and not worry about a reflector, because you're adding another opportunity for something to get into your glasses. Right now, I would just use the one light and go for it. If you need the reflector, you can pull it in. I would try using the white side instead of the silver side. Again, it's the harshness of the light coming into your glasses. The softer, the less impact.
So we're talking about head on, having the light just straight at you.
The light is actually to the side.
It's going to be.
See, I tried that, and it kind of leaves the other side a little bit dark.
Then just come around until you're happy with where it is.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
About William Thompson.
Hey, good evening. How are you guys? Thank y'all for here Sunday with us. Can you hear me?
Yes, you got it.
Great. Thank you. I had a question. I was going through your wish list as we were all speaking and everything. And the Sony Alpha 7C mirrorless digital camera that's on there, it says that the camera comes with the 24 through 70 millimeter lens kit. Right.
That particular one, you can get it body only if you have another lens you want to use.
Right. Well, I was just curious when you were mentioning, because I'm not necessarily camera savvy, you mentioned the 85 lens or the 40 lens earlier in the presentation. Is that 85 millimeter and then 40 millimeter?
It is. So the company that I work for only makes prime lenses. So I have to make that choice, 40, 40, 85, whatever the lens, 50, whatever the lens choice that I'm using. Sony does make zoom lenses, which are variable lenses. And if you can only buy one lens, for me, at the company that I work for, I would recommend the 40. But for the Sony, what do you like, the 2470, Gene? What would you recommend?
24 to 105.
24 to 105.
Yeah, it depends if you're on a budget. If you're on a budget, I mean, it's kind of, 24 to 70 is not a cheap piece of glass. So, I mean, certainly, that's honestly, that's what I run. I mean, I love the 24 to 70 G Master. I mean, it's my go-to.
So the budget version of that, Gene, is that the 24 to 105?
The 24 to 105, I think it's newer. It's great. It's newer technology. I mean, it's an f4. So, I mean, especially for the type of work that you're going to be doing, it gives a little bit more flexibility. And, the depth of field, you are sacrificing a bit, but I don't see you guys shooting real shots at 2.8. So, I mean, it doesn't, sound like that's something that you want to do. So, I mean, yeah, the f4, I mean, I think that's one of our most popular ones is the 24 to 105.
Okay, so that was just kind of my question. If the 24 to 70 is applicable to what we will be doing, I would just be strictly using it for the self tapes. I'm not a avid photographer or anything like that.
So what Gene is saying is you could buy it without that 24 to 70 and do the 24 to 105. It'd be a less expensive lens option, and you could.
Honestly, that's what I would go for. When I saw that, I was like, oh, they wanted 24 to 70 on there. They packed it. I mean, it's a good lens.
No, I have to.
That particular one is one of our older versions. I certainly think the 24 to 105 is a couple years newer, and that's certainly a lens that I think I kind of chided on a little bit, because I know that Canon users swear by that lens. because it used to come with the 5Ds all the time. And then when we announced one, and I actually had to do the live stream demo of that at Adorama. I mean, like, and after I had that on my camera, after I did the reveal and then the shoot and everything, I mean, it didn't leave my camera for a few months. I mean, it does one of those go-to lenses.
I think that the lens suggestion from B&H was simply that Stephanie pulled up that SKU number. I don't think that has to be a hard and fast.
Oh, no, I mean, and honestly, I mean, like you said, I mean, we have, and Zeiss has a lot of lenses. We got 59 different lenses. You know, I mean, over.
I work for Zeiss, so he has to give me props here and there.
Different, but for what you were doing for the Swiss Army knife, for this trade, I think the 24 to 105 is a is pretty much a master of all.
And are you saying that that's an F4, Gene?
F4.
Okay. And F4 really, that gives you a really nice depth of field to start with. You don't have to go down to a 2.8 or a 2.0. That's maybe overkill. So an F4 should really give you some nice bokeh in the background and keep your face in focus. When you get down to, when you're trying to shoot at f2.8, sometimes you might have your right eye in focus and the rest of your face is out of focus. But F4 will let you keep the whole plane of your face in focus. So you really don't need to have a lens that goes all the way to 2.8 or to 2.
And it does give a lot of healthy separation. I mean, with the elements that are built into that lens, I mean, it really can render like a 2.8 if you really want it to when you zoom in a little bit. I mean, it's a lovely piece of glass.
Well, thank you guys for that. That gives me a little bit to chew on.
Thank you, sir.
So maybe one last question and then we'll get this wrapped up because I know Jean's kids are getting a little...
That was actually the last question that they had, so...
Well, there you go. Well, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. I think I owe some whiskey to my friends. We keep teasing about that when we're all getting together, we're gonna have some shots.
I'm a kombucha girl.
We will get vaccinated and we will be able to get together. And I miss all of you, so I can't wait until those moments.
Thank you all. I just want to clarify, Tracy actually got everybody together and it was her brainstorm because she was tired of hearing me whine about it and having people ask her about how to tape and what camera and what lights. So thank you to all of our industry professionals and most especially to my friend Tracy. We really appreciate that. Ryan, we're all going to aspire to look like you on our next Zoom call.
Again, I'd like to thank all my friends.
But thank you all so very much.
All right. I love you guys. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you.
All very well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to get off so you guys don't have to keep saying things.
Thank you.